Hey, welcome everyone
Yes.
to Politically High Tech with your host, Elias. I got another new guest here. If you want new guests, well, this season's not going to disappoint. But I always like to bring some of the good ones, especially the ones that you have interesting feedbacks. Even some of those, I sometimes like to piss off you audience because I like to bring even some guests that you don't kind of like. And I already have a new one that y'all don't kinda like because he's so sure that socialism failed that some of you got a bit butthurt in the comment section. But hey, that encourages discussion, not everything's this is not a safe space for the left or the right or the center. I don't believe in that. I give you the ideas, rather you like them or not, you have the comment section. That's your freedom of speech right there. You can say, "Eliza, why do you do this?" Well, I believe in bringing interesting ideas, and if it sounds far fetched, if it sounds crazy, well, let's explore it because the current system sucks. So I'm open to alternatives. Okay, let's just be real. The current system's not great. If anyone who's a moderate or independent, especially, the voting system is pretty bad. But enough of my poorly prepared monologue. I don't really prepare monologues. It comes out randomly. But before we get to that good stuff. I'm gonna get straight to it because we're gonna get to the good stuff, okay? The good stuff. All right, so he's a newcomer, okay? Tom Joseph, pretty easy name for you to remember, right? I'm not gonna spell that for you. He is an innovator, business owner, and social activist. As a founder of Bookminders, he developed a transformative approach to outsource bookkeeping and pioneered remote first employment model that prioritizes flexibility and work life balance. People on the left, you should kind of like this. You kind of advocate for these things. As an activist and media producer, he has launched Wilson's Fountain in America's Main Street Party, including new method for nominating members of Congress. Oh, we definitely need that. Too many incumbents who I would say some are corrupt keep getting reelected. With a track record of leveraging technology for societal well being, he applies a business oriented approach to election reform. Oh, it's long overdue. It's freaking long overdue. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm just going to keep saying it. And most of you should agree, most of you, except for those who you love business as usual. You should hate the system. You should attack the comment section. I encourage you to do that because it exposes who you are, okay? So you put a real name in the picture if you have low IQ, but whatever. All right, let's introduce Tom Joseph. What do you want the listeners and the viewers to know about you before we get started?
Before we get started, I actually have an engineering background. I'm a systems engineer. I'm a problem solver. I got my start working in factory automation, but I stumbled upon an idea at the dawn of the personal computer age that really allowed me to start a company as a pioneer of the remote first employment in an accounting field. But I saw at that time I had 3 older sisters, went to college, had expectations of having a career, but they also had expectations of having a family. And I kind of recognized what personal computers and uh, would mean to that market. And I um, launched a business that probably when I launched, it was way before its time. I mean, we shared an America Online account like as a fax machine. But that's how early this was, 1991. But eventually, it's grown into being a very accepted way for people to, outsource accounting. And then the day that I was doing it, taking financial data off site and doing something in a remote fashion was not commonplace or very well accepted. I had overcome a lot of hurdles of how people expected to have things done. But, I had a vision for how it would play out, and it wound up playing out that way. And, now we're in 5 cities and have over 100 employees, and um, it's a place where the employees really love it. I mean, we won top workplace, which is based on employee satisfaction surveys. So that was my goal: create a place that people wanting flex employment would love, and I think we accomplished that. So that's the background of what I was about before I got involved in election reform.
All right, big business evil overlords. You should be jealous of this. Care about your workers. They may leave and join him. Just say it.
We have longevity. I mean, one thing we were made. I always thought when I started this company that women want to work there until their kids got to school age and then they'd go back into the conventional work environment, but it didn't happen. And I thought, well, when they go to college, we'll go back. No, it didn't happen. When they're, now even, I think I only lose them to being a grandmother.
But listen, that
Mhm.
is, I would say that's worthy instead of just a bunch of myriad of reasons,
Yeah.
right? So, hey, that's a honorable loss, right, to a grandmother, not to, oh, because the workplace is toxic. I'm sure you've heard that a trillion times.
Mhm.
Or or the gossip and all that other stuff. And trust, well, my day job, I deal with that. But I was like, you know what? People gonna talk, people gonna do whatever. As long as I make an impact, that matters the most. That's, know your why, people. That's why it's important just to know your why, because it's easy to get caught up with all these distractions
Yeah.
and all that, even in the workplace, for
Great
sure.
point. It
So,
was.
that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna be preachy because I want Tom to take over the talking, okay? He's here. This is practically his episode. I'm just guiding it, as softly as possible because I come prepared, but sometimes I'm ready for the unexpected. There's times I gotta throw away the script because it's like, okay, went in the other direction, but hey, that's what you gotta do. So anything else you want to add before I start getting into the questions?
Go ahead.
Because I want to make
Fire
sure.
away.
Alrighty. So, how does this moneyless nomination system works? Because we all know campaign donations is needed to put ads. Some people got to knock on doors, that kind of thing. I mean, how does this system work?
Well, I mean, for some background, just uh, how I got started with this. My initial idea was to really start a political party. And I spent some time, I launched this in 2021, thinking about, doing kind of trying to create a good version of the party. But at the end of the day, um, I came to the conclusion I was just creating more of the same. It would be a system that would depend on rich people funding their own campaigns, picking where they're going to run. And then you become beholden to either them with their money or somebody who found a bunch of rich people to support them. And so I was kind of frustrated within a year of starting this effort. And one day I made a joke. I said, we do a better job selecting the next American Idol than we do the next representative of Congress. And it kind of inspired me to think about, hey, we could probably do something like that, create a moneyless contest that went through model around, use our cell phones, not let people vote a million times, but do it in a very concentrated way, like pick specific districts. And for a little bit more background on how I got involved in this initially, as a business person, I'm just always frustrated with the concept that people could run for Congress in uncompetitive districts, and there was really no competition. Like that in a natural market, some thing comes in and fills that void. But for decades, we've suffered that the system just doesn't enable competition, and that was always something I wrapped my head around. So part of the idea of like, hey, how do you disrupt a gerrymandered or uncompetitive situation? How do you create competition where there's typically none? So it's not just the idea of having this American Idol like competition, it's about putting it in a place where it could actually work and that you could actually create a more popular candidate than what's being elected. Because the tendency is that in these districts that are uncompetitive, that the representative is going to go more right or left than the district because there's nothing stopping them. They're influenced by money. Money kind of finances extremism. Moderate people think they should get what they need without spending money, and because we're the majority, and that's the frustration with the system. It fuels extremism, and there's no really counterbalance. So that was really in terms of the big concept. How do we create something that's going to be disruptive in a gerrymandered district, and how do we use technology to do it? And the way the contest works, and just to give you the overview, is that we're not going to try to run this everywhere. We're going to pick specifically where we think that we can be successful, and we're always do an equal number of red and blue districts, so it doesn't look like we're putting our thumb on the scale of either a conservative or liberal approach. But we would pick, say these 10 red blue districts. In advance of this super PAC that supports us would basically be our public relations department saying, hey, the contest is coming to your district. If you're interested in running for Congress, here's how you do it. Download the app, fill out the campaign, put all this information in. If you're interested in helping the process, we need a local committee that's going to run the contest. The national party is not going to run the contest. We want to localize it so that people trust it. And it also has to be personalized to the district. And when I say that, is that right now in our straw man for this app, there's 7 issues that will be put before um, both the contestants and the district to say, this is what we think is important for our district. These 2 global, 3 national, 2 local issues. So if you go into the app, you can try this out. If you go to mainstreetparty.org and go to the page A Brand New Way, you can actually try this demo version. We have avatar candidates in the app. But in order to get into the contest, the candidates have to weigh in on those 7 issues: left, right, center, yes, no. So, Iran, borders, inflation, um, or local things. Who funds floodwater problems, the federal government or local? So in this way, you can say, hey, these people really match up with my values. You pick 3 or 4 values. And if the field's 100 people, you might have 20 people that match your values. In our system, you can endorse them all. We use a thing called approval voting. This is something that helps make sure that everybody has a shot. If you can only vote for one person in an early round, you got to be really lucky. But if you can say that, hey, I'd be thrilled if I had a representative that was fought like hell for me for these 4 issues, that's way better than what we have today. You don't even know what a Republican or Democrat is. So, it seems to change with the wind or the president or whatever. So this is a way for the constituents to say, okay, let's see who makes the top 20. Then it's like, okay, out of the 20 ones that matched me, 6 made it through. Maybe I'll want to look harder. Maybe I'll just want to endorse these guys. We want to whittle the field down to a top 4. Go from an open field down to 20, 10, 4. Top 4, we want to have like a town hall where the local committee introduce new questions, new content, reason for the candidates to weigh in on some more, make the contest compelling. This is really, Elias, one of the reasons why I think people don't vote. It's not competitive. It's not compelling. It's not easy. So we want to make it easy. We want to treat the constituents like customers consuming something that they're trying to elevate a better product, a better representative. So from this final 4, we'll get to a top 2, do a debate round. Everybody weigh in on their top candidate. The winner of the nomination is to be somebody who has more than 50% of the support from the district. My guess is it will be pretty close to the runner-up. If you use this system to whittle the field down, I think you're not going to get like somebody who's ruby red and another person is like very opposite pink, in a red district. Same thing. I think you're probably going to get 2 pink candidates in a conservative district and 2 baby blue in a liberal district. And that's our intent. I don't think there's a purple party. I don't think there's a middle party. I think you're shades of blue, shades of red. And our goal is to create, moneyless caucuses within Congress, people that aren't beholden to the Republican or Democratic Party, but are still liberals and conservatives because they're coming from a liberal or conservative district. It would be weird if our system nominated a liberal in a conservative district. But what it does do for liberals in that conservative district, it allows them to weigh in on the candidates that agree with them on certain moderate issues. So it'll help give voice to the people who are gerrymandered and actually disincentivize these state legislators from gerrymandering in the first place. This is something that they're going to say, this is now competing against our interests. Instead of bearing these voices, we're now pushing them against really party ideology. And to me, that's a way that you can create a market force, create competition where there typically is none.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because the only thing I'm gonna just add to that is a little bit is they did have third parties that failed because you did you point this out that they were still beholden to rich, like the no labels part. The reason why that flopped was because, well, this is still, they fulfill the interests of the rich people. So yeah, but also Democrats and Republicans too, and they still got their thing. But I looked into no labels. I was almost gonna support them until I saw you're just picking a bunch of moderates. You still gonna have like the same issues than the Democrats or Republicans, so you're gonna get off just about nowhere. I like that approach. I want to, of course, I want to see it implemented, and I think you're gonna do some test phrases based on districts because you're electing Congress, right? So maybe I was gonna pick a hypothetical. Maybe you might want to test probably competitive districts. I don't know, or safe red, safe blue. I
No,
don't know
no,
if you
no,
have like
no. We definitely want to go. So our Well, there's math
Mhm.
behind this. What we want to look at is districts where the incumbent is winning with 70 to 80% of the vote. And the reason why it's that number, it's enough opposition votes to be meaningful, but not so much that if you split that field, they could still field a candidate to win. You split 70% in half, that's 35 and 35, the opposition party could only get 30, you know? So you want them to more or less kind of say, hey, we recognize we're never winning here. We only have 20 to 30% of the vote, but we can create change by making sure that, like I said, in a red district, it's not a
Mm,
Republican. And in a blue district, it's not a Democrat. And that way
right.
you break the financial tie. And this is really where we lose our voice is when party whips threaten reelection funds for the representatives, say, "Hey, you vote for this big bill, this big and they both do it. We now become instead of Congress doing its job and proposing legislation, we rely on electing a president, that's going to have their program and their sweeping legislation. That's not the way it's supposed to work, liberal or conservative. And we're supposed to have a Congress that produces laws on it. Like I'm just a bill from PBS. Not the reason why they have these big bills is because everybody's getting their piece, and,
Right.
they wouldn't stand on their own. There's a lot of legislation that doesn't stand. It stands because somebody in the party agreed, "Hey, I'll vote for this piece if you vote for that piece." Then they're doing all this deal making, and they're not working on our behalf when they do that, and that's why we're $40 trillion in debt.
Right, yeah. No one wants to sacrifice, no one wants to make real budget cuts. Both parties, even the ones that one of them, and you know which one is some people, the one that used to lecture on fiscal responsibility.
They're both
After
funded
that,
by rich people, and the people
yeah,
who've gotten the reason why we have this debt is because the people who have the money aren't willing to pay it, and that's creating a huge, debt burden. Just what I think we pay like 6 billion a day on interest, and yeah, um, so that's I think until you have some accountability, and this is where the accountability comes, is that when it's time for real, the candidates are not allowed to have a committee that survives the general election. So, as in addition, what happens is whoever wins the contest gets back by our super PAC for the expensive general election campaign. This way, they don't have to raise money. So, during the nomination process, they're not allowed to raise money. During the general election process, they will have a candidate committee, but somebody on the local committee will be the treasurer, and they'll shut it down at the end of the general election cycle. No war chest in our party. No candidates are allowed to contribute to their campaign more than any other citizen, no buying an office, even if it doesn't help us. If we're committed to what the constitutions of our state say, a free and equal election or free and fair election, why are we not doing that? I mean, it's the furthest thing from what we're doing by gerrymandering, and both parties are doing that. They're making sure that elections are unfair. It's a violation of their oath. Then we've just accepted that we're going to let this happen.
oh, I personally agree. Yeah, the gerrymandering thing is disgusting. I don't care which party is doing it. Yeah, so the state gets more red and more blue because all this manipulation, all that, and yeah, no, I'm with you there. Yeah, no, I want something that's gonna weed out, and who knows, maybe some districts will turn out an interesting result because the candidates focus on the local issues. Maybe for example, and I'm just gonna give a hypothetical here. That district's been solid red, but since this blue candidate is focused on the local issues really well, that candidate may have a possibility, not guaranteed, but may have a possibility to flip that district because they focus on because that candidate, is a part of the opposition party, the minority party, but they may be able to flip that district. It's easier said than done because based on my statistics I checked, 80% of the people that get reelected are incumbents.
Yeah, no, it's actually it's a little bit higher, but yeah, and that's why we want to go for, like I said, to me, there's three different types of districts. Ones that are naturally uncompetitive, meaning it's like a rural district or a city district that hasn't been gerrymandered. There's districts that actually swing districts like suburbs, And then there's gerrymandered districts that you take a naturally uncompetitive district and you lop a bunch of opposition voters into that district, whether it's a rural district that all of a sudden gets a little piece of the city, or vice versa. A city just, that's really where it's unfair. And our system is really just attacking that because I think that that is really where mathematically the vulnerability is for that. Do I think this can work in broader? Yes, but as a business person, you always want to go where the lowest hanging fruit. And for us, these are districts where they're not used to spending money. They're not used to having competition. They're probably people that are 70 or 80 years old. I did realize an interesting study last year where I was looking at all the districts that had that win percentage over 70%, and they were all occupied by these octogenarians or septuagenarians, in Congress. So all the people that are there, 70, 80 years old, are doing their party a big service because not only are they winning over and over again, they're burying 20 to 30% of the opposition votes along with their wins. And those are the ones that people, I think, why they want term limits. I've come full circle on term limits. The reason we want term limits is because elections aren't fair. If we have a shitty representation, you said, I could swear, in a normal system, that person wouldn't get reelected. In this system, there's no accountability. They get reelected. As long as they do the bidding of the party leadership, they're going to get the money and nobody even wants to challenge them. And if they don't do the party bidding, then the money goes elsewhere and backs an insurgent candidate who's further extreme. And that's why we can't get anything done.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. That's why, yeah, and just to slightly, yeah, buff that up, buff your point of view more. Yeah, like, what's the average age? It doesn't matter what party. It's like what 60, 64, 65, maybe even a little higher than that of a politician in Congress. Both parties, okay, just about the average age is not. Don't get me wrong. I prefer like a probably 40, 50-year-old, but I still say they got enough sharpness and wisdom. I think I find balance, right? That's what I'm trying to find.
I
Even though I'm
stepped
younger
out
than
of
those,
I stepped out of
yeah,
leading
go
my
ahead.
business at 60 years old. know, I'm this is a retirement project
Yeah.
for me. I mean, um the age that they're working at and the responsibility, we really need our sharpest people in there. These people are not in their prime. And I make the comparison a lot to like the Olympic team. We would not tolerate this on the Olympic team. Just people getting on the Olympic team just over there. But if they earn it, and I use the example of the 41-year-old woman that tipped the goal in that we won the gold medal in hockey. She obviously earned it. She was there. She's not there. We're not winning. So I wouldn't want to term limit her out. So, if somebody can win honestly and be there and be a great statesperson, regardless of that. But I think if they're not good or if it's time for them to move on, somebody's going to unseat them. This happens in sports always. Anything where there's real competition, people get unseated. And I think the framers were counting on that to make the entire system work. So a lot of this work is based on um, a lecturer that founding father James Wilson, who added the words "and equal" to what was previously the free election clause prior to the 1790 Constitution of Pennsylvania. I've had to do my history. I'm an engineer. I was like zero liberal arts from I had to go do research on this, but he he was a constitutional author and he's one of the biggest nerds of that era in terms of constitution. And he basically said that free and equal elections were the original fountain of democracy. And if we poison the well, it's going to spoil all aspects of the state. And if you think about where we are, because our elections aren't fair and equal, um, the system's kind of a mess. And it just means that there's a very, very small percent of the people that are making decisions in the country, and that's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be popular sovereignty. We have input. We government of the people, by the people, for the people.
No, yeah, no, I agree. This is why we need change, people, because we're gonna keep electing these. I don't want to discriminate elders. 'Cause there's some elders are sharp-minded people that I will say, for exception, I should say in Congress. I don't want to do this discrimination. That's a slippery slope right there for me. If they're sharp, they can still lead. I'm for them. However, there's plenty that are not, and I could list names of both parties that they should have been gone decades ago. Some of them, okay.
70 is too old.
Um,
70
but
is too
I'm not
old.
gonna do that. Oh, he said it, and he's around there,
I'm
so,
65, I'm gonna be 66 here soon. I'm not, I'm not doing this because I wanna run for Congress.
right,
I mean,
right.
that's
Oh,
for
no, no, no,
sure.
no,
I
no,
mean,
no, yeah, you're
I
trying
would not want and part of my motivation for doing this was that about 10 years ago, we had somebody had to step down from the US House, and it was a time when I was thinking about, doing something different, and I thought, "Oh, maybe I'll run for Congress," and that thought lasted for about 45 seconds, and it was like, would I wanna be part of that organization? The answer was no. And that was really part of my motivation for this is like, can we create a place that people like me would actually want to go? Right now, it's just like the sons and the siblings and wealthy people and name brand politicians that, leverage that their grandfather was a politician. So they're going to be a politician. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, the best example, the Kennedys. Oh, that's a dynasty right there. I mean, one of them ran from I'm in New York, the 10th district. Well, I'm happy he lost. I say we don't need another Kennedy. It was someone who's a nobody, a different face. I'm happy that it turned out that way. And since it's a very blue district, the Republican is going to lose. But I'm happy it turned out that way for the Democratic
Well,
primary because that's where it's crowded. I think the Republicans only got like 1 or 2 people. I gotta double check. Don't quote me, audience. So, you could correct me on the Democrat side, but not the Republican side, because the 10th district is very blue. Yeah, I mean, a lot of New York City districts are very blue, with the exception of one that lingers into Brooklyn, Southwest Brooklyn, only to Staten Island. That one's definitely more competitive. Leans a bit red. But yeah, I'm happy that a dynasty person did win, which
the
I'm happy with that.
The founders hated the concept of inherited power, the idea that people were getting elected because of their name brand or the fact that they had a lot of money. I mean, this is really not what they were supposed to be about. And I know a lot of them were slaveholders and business people, but a lot of them really did believe in the concepts of all men are created equal and, you know, we all have inalienable rights. And you can't believe that if, you create a system of government where we're told who to vote for, really don't have a choice.
You gotta be blessed by the party, which I'm against that.
Yeah.
Okay, you got the Republican blessing, the Democrat blessing. I'm against that. It should be blessed by the people. The people should be people approved. Well, that I'm with you there. So now that we got to the fundamentals and the purpose and the intent and all that, how can we make sure that this is accurate
Secure.
and secured? Yeah,
I
they
was
because
I was
you
gonna
know
if you didn't ask it, I was gonna bring it up.
I'm pretty sure you would. But I'm trying to get the
Mm,
fundamentals with some of my listeners. So
yeah.
there you go. The floor is yours.
Well, I think when, the internet first came about, people had a lot of issues about obviously everything getting hacked. And, but I think as time has evolved with two-factor authentication and actually, I originally thought that we were gonna have to invest millions to build like a secure mobile voting platform to do this. There's actually 3 offerings already out there. The one that we want to use, Votes, has been in use by the U.S. military for like 8 years. It's accepted in a bunch of states. It uses blockchain technology. It's all encrypted. It would require that when, number one, that we verify the like my ID to the state voter roll, um, and that each time you submit a voter approval, that you have to present your face or your fingerprint and make sure that the device knows that you're actually holding it when you're submitting it. So, in many senses, this is as secure, more secure than anything that we're doing. I mean, and it's really the direction that the world is going. Votes has been accepted in Ontario for the next city elections for all the elections in the entire province in Ontario, all their city elections. I mean, so it's being adopted. Alaska's been adopting a different secure mobile voting platform because it's just so expansive. And there's, I forget which country, but there's one that had to create because they were a new country, had to create a new voting system. They decided since they were starting from scratch, it was the last 10 or 20 years, it was all mobile voting. So you know, just like a lot of other things, we invent stuff and then other countries use it before we do. But that would be our path. I've been working with um, a group called the Digital Democracy Project, which is already doing secure mobile voting for legislative measures. So in Florida, he's been doing it for years in Florida. I don't know if you know, if you heard of Ramon Perez and the Digital Democracy Project, but basically they're populating their database with different state and federal legislation that allows you and I to go in and say, hey, I'm a voter in this district. I can let my representative know that this is how I feel on this issue. Now, it has to get tractions to get enough population, but it's really, I think, the future representation that people are going to be able to tell their legislators how they really feel. Is we don't have to rely on the media for some opinion poll that might be biased based on money. So, if we can have a way that the citizens can weigh in on legislation, that helps. In fact, there's a candidate, Dan Williams in Florida, that's basically agreed to run using the Digital Democracy Project to make all his decisions in Congress. So he's more or less encouraging all the citizens of this district to download the app and tell them how to vote. And he will be their, pipeline to Congress. I think that's where things are going if we really want to have satisfaction. So there's there's a lot that's happened. People just don't know how far we've advanced with mobile voting. But if they translate it to their own life and see if they ever gamble or use Venmo or go and download stuff from their bank, they can see that we trust these systems with our money. I think we can trust them with our votes.
Ooh, I would like to add on to that. You make a very interesting point because it's true. When it comes to, I would say, prediction apps, let's just say that the Kelsey, the Poly Markets, and, if you want to include the gambling, DraftKings, they're the same thing. They just focus on different things. Like Kelsey and Poly Market, they focus on, let something, I'm just gonna say something silly as, "Oh, will Beyonce be the artist of the year?" What percentage is that? We already,
Right.
doing betting on things like that, or I'll make something really silly. Will Elias Martin be president of 2028? Of course, you're gonna get like 99% no, and then you get like that 1% yes because you want to troll, whatever, wherever their weird reason, or they mentally ill. Okay, I'm not gonna run for president, but you're gonna have you're gonna make a prediction right there. And I think they do have an influence because if they see that this person has a high chance of win, maybe more people will bet towards that. Because some people bet towards something safety, or people who are too risk adverse, they don't want to do that. But yet we allow that. We allow that accessibility through the mobiles. But when it comes to voting, we
But we're
are we are very, very not. I'm not even say cautious. We are just cynical. We don't even trust a darn thing. Even though
well, I
I know
think
there's ability
oh,
for that.
I
Go ahead.
think one thing to consider, this is an election system. It's a nominating system. This just gets the person on the ballot for the general election. So, it's a sandbox. If you don't like the candidate that's emerging, vote for the incumbent Republican or Democrat. I mean, um, but at least let's put something out there. I mean, on election night, 90% of these races are uncompetitive. How about let's add some excitement? And, if they're actually competitive, people will turn out and vote. And who knows, people may get engaged again. And I think the only people that get engaged right now for the primaries are the staunch party people. And so you wonder why, the candidates come out of some of these places tend to look like, is this person gonna really win in Florida? Um, it's it's because that's who the party wants, but it's not necessarily who the people want. And that's a disservice because that means that election is either going to waste a lot of money or waste a lot of energy, on a candidate that really had no chance. And this happens on both sides. You're just so surprised that this is the person that emerged to go up in this district that could have been winnable by that party that year. But they almost like undermine their own effort by putting somebody up that it's like, oh, yeah, it's not going to fly there.
Alright, so it's a nominating system, people. It's not exactly an election system.
Yeah, and so if
Okay,
it
I just
gets
wanna be clear
hacked,
about
so
that,
we
yep.
figure out how to make sure it doesn't get hacked. But we have to move forward, and this is a way that doesn't require legislation, laws. We can. I figure out how to shoehorn this within the election system as it currently exists. That's a huge advantage, a first mover advantage that everything we're trying to do now requires permission from the people that don't want the system to change because they like it that it's easy to get reelected. So right now, ranked choice voting, which the public in Alaska really likes, is on the ballot to get removed. And so it's not even two steps forward, one step back. It's one step forward, one step back. The democracy is, deteriorating faster than election reform is happening, and we need all the irons in the fire here.
I mean, this is like slightly out off topic, but in terms of term limits, I would like to expand that to, the Supreme Court
Oh
as well,
yeah.
just my personal opinion. But, let's just focus on the Congress. That's the big beast right now that we're focusing on, but that's just my personal opinion. Um, yeah, so as long as, yeah, we have, something for that. I mean, yeah, we do have to move forward because we can't just keep relying on machines that require so much mechanical maneuvers and punching things like we in the 1800s. I mean, New York does that to a lesser degree. Yeah, it's a bit computerized. We still gotta put
The
the
check
long ballot in
Just to
there.
on your off topic,
Go ahead.
the check and balance on the Supreme Court was supposed to moderate the judiciary. It does not. It's happened is that when when the president lines up with the Senate, that the nominee winds up being extreme on either side. And so you have you're I think the founders saw that we are scorecarding the Supreme Court 6-3. They'd be like rolling over in their cribs. I mean, that was not the intent. And if you were, it should really be like 5 moderate justices and 2 extreme left, 2 extreme right. I mean, that would really be something they'd probably say, "Yeah, okay, that's like America. It's a bell curve. You'd have 5 people in the middle and 2 on the far right and 2 on the far left." Instead, we've got, 6 right, 3 left, or 5 and 4. That's not the way that you wonder why the decisions are so predictable. Well, once they get that advantage, they're gonna be all conservative, all liberal, but if you had a 5-2-2, they might actually deliberate.
I like that split. I didn't think of the split like that. I was just very basic. I would personally think like okay, 3 right leaning, 3 left, and 3 center. But
But
that's a good split too, guys. It's true that
the
because
process
let's
was
be real.
supposed to be moderating, and it is not,
Right.
because we have a
Yeah,
two-party
no.
system. And, I'm trying to make sure we don't have a two-party system because
Yeah.
both Washington and Adams predicted, the end of the republic if we went into a firm two-party system. And it's something I didn't think about when I was born, but now I'm thinking about, yeah, I mean, this is scary. I mean, we are so divisive.
Yep. I mean, the very first president has warned us, and we certainly did take heed of it. Just a great George Washington people. Yep. I mean, when I read that quote, I said that hit me hard. That's one of the few things that hit me hard. Yep, that's a he knew it before it was forming behind his back. So it was like it was a sadly inevitable. But is there change in hope? Yes, but it's gonna take time.
Well,
It all
you think it's gonna take time, but when you think about how quickly certain things of how technology transforms things quickly, way faster than you think. So our approach is to really say, "Hey, for 2028, we're looking at 20 blue, 20 red districts. And if we can be successful in a quarter of them, that we could make it so that the Speaker of the House has to be elected within the main chamber. If you get 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, or out of the system and replace them with independent, conservative, and liberal, they can't figure out who the speaker is outside the main chamber. They'd have to bring it in. That would be moderating itself. It would be somebody that would be from a swing district. And that would be historic. And I think that would give us momentum in our goal for 2030, which would be, let's see, if we did 20 and 20, we do 50 and 50, and now go into the Senate in maybe a handful of small states, 3 and 3 or 5 and 5. That puts us in a position for 2032 to have possibly a nationwide nominating contest for the president, where you could actually have everybody weigh in at the same time, and whittle the field over a process of weeks or months to say that, hey, we're going to consider California the same time we consider Iowa. The fact that we have 2 dinky states that play such a large hand in who the favorite now is for president is just insane considering the tools that we have at our disposal. It works for the parties.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's definitely utilized, but, maybe you make me hopeful. I'm just feeling down because all politics is just so negative right now, so toxic. And as a moderator, I get sometimes attacked from both sides, and there's times I'm praised for both. Depends on the issue. Or I'm labeled as liberal, conservative, or whatever stupid political label I've been labeled. So listen, I'm over political wild card. Depends on the issues. Did I say I lean left here? I lean right there. But at the end of the day, I think I want this to happen, no
Yeah.
matter how I feel, I definitely want this to happen. I'm using more logic, foresight, higher spiritual thinking, so to just, I can feel like crap because look, politics is toxic. We definitely need some change, people. Come on, the current system sucks. We gotta agree with that, people. Unless you love your incumbent, you love your 100-year-old dead brain person that's been there for 50 years.
Well, I
That's
think
privilege, but this people's been there for decades and decades, and look, and they're just a status quo. They're stagnating. They're part of the problem, the big major part of the problem. So come on, we gotta support change, people.
yeah.
We could disagree on the details, that's fine, but we definitely need change. I mean that part, that part's non-negotiable. How we get there, I'm open to debate that. But if you love the status quo, I happily oppose you because it's not working out. And you're right, this is definitely not what the founding fathers intended at all. If you have two working brain cells connecting together properly and know what democracy really is. This is not it, people. This is, you can even say rigged to some degree. I'm not gonna say Trumpian to some of you. Rigged in favor of parties, not like stealing elections. I'm not gonna go that far.
Yeah, no, I think it's there's a portion of the political elite who have access to power that don't want to give it up. And right now, it's not even the 1%, it's probably a tenth of a percent or less that really weigh in and tell the legislators how to vote. And we're just kind of like there, and really have no way to really influence the levers of power. And we're supposed to be able to influence the levers of power. And the system I'm creating will restore those levers to the people. And I think that's probably a scary concept to a lot of folks. I've not gotten a lot of positive reception from like the mainstream media or obviously Democrats, staunch Democrats or Republicans. But the area that really surprised me, Elias, is that people that work in election reform also don't like this idea. And I think the reason is because they have donors that are supporting very specific things they're doing, and they're probably afraid they're going to lose them. So everybody puts donors ahead of country, I guess. I don't have any donors yet, so I can't put them first. It's me.
Yeah, no. Let's take that sip of water. I don't want you to choke and pass out, especially with an interesting idea. I was like, "Oh, no, the donors got him. The donors got Tom Joseph. They poisoned his water." No, I'm kidding, people. I'm
No.
kidding. Just went down the wrong pipe. But I don't mind playing with conspiracy theories just for the fun of it. "Oh, they poisoned his water. They knew he was gonna come to this podcast." No, no, no. People, okay, I'm just joking. There's no conspiracy theory. Things happen, okay? But all of seriousness, so this leads me just this next question. You say you already have a lot of people who's not taking it. I'm not surprised mainstream media, they're never open to new interesting ideas. No. But lecture reform people, I would have thought at least you would get at least some support, maybe with mixed with some skeptics, but you got almost universal pushback. That's based on my impression. Feel free to correct me there or provide me
Well,
the
I've had I don't know about pushback. It's hard to engage folks. I have been able to engage some folks that are James Wilson scholars on the idea. I was on Cenk Igor's podcast. He's a pretty well known progressive. I'm getting on a lot of small podcasts all across the spectrum, liberal, conservative, libertarian, everything. And frankly, very receptive. But I do have to get to the point where I'm getting the donations in that would allow me to build out the app and to attract a super PAC donor. I need to get bigger traction, get somebody that's has millions of viewers to give this credibility, or somebody's an academic or whatever to stand behind it. And for whatever reason, there's been a reluctance to do that. Um, and it's like I said, if you really study history, constitution, popular sovereignty, this ties directly into what the founders intended. So, I don't know. You wish people cared more about free and equal elections, a little bit less about the right to bear arms. I mean, I'm not saying not care less. I mean, there's an importance to both, but um, there's a lot of fervor around our guns, and there should be a lot more fervor around elections being fair.
Yeah, come on, the First Amendment, people. That's why it's first, and the right to bear arms number 2. That was intended. That was
Yeah.
intended because without that, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. By the time they take your right to vote away, they'll take everything else. It's foundation. That's like expecting a plant to grow, I don't know, in thin air. Once
Yeah.
you remove the soil and all that, that's it. All those rights I was growing, gone, gone, gone. I mean, so, that's good that I was gonna say, I was you beat me to it, I'm happy you did. I think podcast spaces are just a way to do it, I guess, 'cause those ones are willing to listen to this. And I'm happy that you got on someone like, Cenk Uygur, politically certain there are certain things I agree with them, and certain things like, "Oh, whoa, too lefty for me there, buddy." Overall, I'm more of a moderate centrist on a
Yeah.
lot of things, but but
Like,
hey, hey, I'm happy that there's at least something like Cenk Uygur give you a platform to speak on that. So I got to give him that credit, because it's just bringing it out there, bringing it out there. I got to give credit when it's due. Trust me, I'm critical of Young Turks at
and
times,
I'm
but this one I gotta give credit where it's due. So
Yeah, I've gotten, like I said, across the spectrum, conservatives, liberals, moderates. I'm getting on all, and it's interesting. The conversation is pretty much the same. The cultural issues don't really find its way into this particular conversation because everybody pretty much feels the same way about the way elections work. That they're, like I said, rigged in the sense that they're predetermined, and that makes them that why vote? Why show up? I mean, we show up for the president because that might be compelling, but the House races are just not. And that is when we this whole thing started. That's the only person that we voted for. You voted for the House rep and the elector. That's all he had. And so we got to get back to basics. That vote has to be meaningful.
no, yeah, and just to bring that point even further, even local and state elections, because those laws are going to impact you even much more than the federal ones. Yeah, federal ones impact you, but not as much as local and state. Oh, yeah, they impact you a heck of a lot more. I say no disregard federal. I mean, you show only for the president, which is true. But when it comes like the Senate, definitely less, and the House Representative even less. It's like what at average? Feel free to correct me here. Some is like 2%, probably a little too low, probably like 10-20% ish that actually votes as registered to vote. Actually vote because, like you said, they're staunch party people. They
Well,
all Democrat, all Republican. There's no way you can change their mind, and it depends on the district too, because
an average primary is about 100,000 voters. A district's about 700,000 voters. So it's like, that's a pretty small number. There's people that are now very powerful people in Congress that, won their seat because they won a primary, but and they only had like 49,000 votes. And that's the difference. We have to raise the bar. And it just isn't. And we care about our Olympic team. We should care more about this. I'm not saying we should care less about our Olympic team, but we put so much energy into making sure that's fair and that we get the best people. And we put like zero and to me, it's like representing your country, whether it's a 100-yard dash, which is relatively unimportant compared to representing the 17th district of Pennsylvania. Um, you know, let's let's get at it. We're just letting rich people run amok and take this system over for us. And the capability's there. We just have to educate ourselves and take the system back.
oh, yeah, remind me of my center right leaning. Yes, I have reoccurring It came here a few times. Yeah, said that how most of the laws are pushed. They're done by the great influence and blessing of the rich. And while the people, I think, well, his percentage was like 3%. That has like mass approval for the people, which that is horrendous. That is not representative at all. So most of the time, it's just people in power and the rich, they do that. I'm not hating on rich people because I'm sure not all rich people control politics. I don't want to, I want to be clear about that. But to your point, which I see as more like a pragmatic, that you want to do things stages by stage, which I agree with personally. Is how you're gonna build up because oh yeah, I want to moderate the presidential election, but how you gonna do that if you can't control even the district and the Senate, and the president's like, oh, across all 50 states. And of course, the territories are excluded. It's funny, the territories could join the primaries, but when it comes to the when it comes to freaking the general election, okay, we don't need you, Puerto Rico, we don't need you, Guam, we don't need you, North Mariana Islands. Yeah, get out. You're not a state. So, but I know I'm going a little too far fetched, but my point is, I like this. I want this to be developed. I want to support this any way that I can. And let's call action right now. Normally I'll wrap the conversation where I do that. Let's go. All right, my people. Let's go to mainstreetparty.org. Okay. This organization's Main, let's spell that MAIN and then street, STREET, then party, PARTY.org. All right. Go there. And just like he said, it's a demo, but I'm sure it's gonna evolve to more than a demo. Give it a shot. This is a great time. It's like
Yeah.
where you get a free sample, in a food convention or something. Okay, so it tastes really good. I hope this becomes a real product. So this is your free sample,
Yeah.
people.
You might
Free.
wanna
Normally they charge.
you might want less
Yeah, not
salty. Let
this.
me know if it's too salty. But, the, one thing to consider it's it's a way to give you a flavor for how this would work. The point is, right now, advertising money determines who we elect, and we kind of when the media figures out who is the biggest kitty, they're gonna say, "Well, Elias has more money than Tom, Elias is probably gonna win." And, that doesn't matter in the system. The only thing matters is the constituent input and, just like American Idol or whatever these things. So right now, we have a bad reality contest. I think a good reality contest would be an upgrade.
Oh, for sure. A long overdue upgrade, if you ask me.
So what's left on your,
Yeah, people
list
input.
of questions there, Elias? What have I not answered?
Oh, no, 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 we actually went through all of them
Oh,
already,
really?
believe it or not, yeah, I mean, look, I could ask about the skepticism and all that, but I'll wait until I wanna definitely bring you back, and then I'll wear more skeptical hat. I just want people to get a basic idea what it's all about. I have a question what if you get, like, 100 people in a crowd nomination for Democrat Republican? Look, I'm not gonna get to that yet,
No,
okay,
no, no. I
because
mean, I'm assuming there's gonna be 100 candidates, and like I said, the issue, indicator is really the tool for
yeah.
people to whittle the field and,
Yeah, I mean,
get it
that
done.
could be like a future yeah,
It's
that could
gotta
be a
be,
future teaser where I wanna bring it back though,
it's
yeah,
gotta be,
because I'll wear more skeptical hat. "Oh, what about this? What about that?" Wear the more worry, negative Nancy hat. This one was more curious. That's one more intro here. Just get
uh,
an idea just get an idea who you are, what's your, product about, what's your mission here, which is a very good mission. It's a very good mission. It's
I don't know
welcoming
if you're
to
familiar with the old joke about the 2 guys who are on the trail and they run into a bear, and the one guy starts putting his tennis shoes on, taking his hiking boots off, and the other guy says, "Hey, you're not gonna outrun that bear," and he goes, "I just need to outrun you." And the message is there is that we don't have to build a better election system, we have to build a better primary system, and that's not gonna be that hard because the one we have now is terrible. And, so anybody can be skeptical about this, but I think the bar is pretty low when you consider what our current primary system is, and the fact that we have almost zero input on choosing who the people are that represent us. So throw all the darts and arrows you can at me, because this current system deserves a lot of darts and arrows.
Yeah, the current system. Come on, my people, attack the current system, not this guess. Well, me, you can attack me too. I'm a big man. It's okay.
No, I want to
I've been
survive, you
attacked in
know?
the comment section sometimes, and that's okay. But it's not about me. It's about let's support change, people. Let's
Yes.
support change. I don't care where you lean politically, left, right, center. I don't care if you're part of the aliens party, whatever party. Just support this change, okay? And just give it a shot. It's a free demo out, just like I said before, and that's it. Anything else you want to add before I wrap this up?
No, mainstreetparty.org. If you're a real nerd, you can go to wilsonsfountain.us. It's kind of a place where I could explore and do research on the initiative. And there's a lot of work by the college students on kind of free and equal elections and how to do it legally and does it change Congress, things like that. So if you're real curious about it, you can go to wilsonsfountain.us. But mainstreetparty.org is where you'll find the demo of the app under a brand new way.
Yep, come on, let's change it. It's like changing a face of the person. At least we change one part of the system, one part at a time, which I find that far more pragmatic. Because the person wants to do, yeah, I mean, want to change a whole bunch of things, but I say one thing at a time, which I support that. To me, that's more pragmatic and definitely more sustainable and more achievable. Right? You got to put some realism, not so much realism to the point that you become negative,
Yeah.
but just enough that you got to get going, do it by steps instead of just trying to leap over the mountain. If you have an idea that's telling me about leaving over the mountain, at least my brain feels that way. I want your drug. Whatever you're smoking, I want it. And yes, he could swear. He did only swear once. And I'm not penalizing him for it. I'm not gonna set up time. Because I say it's all my guess. At least most of that. You could swear. This is not for kids. Okay, so don't attack him on that. You could attack me for it because I set that rule up and that's it. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. So alrighty then. If you enjoyed this episode, give it 5 stars and then give at least one reason why it's a 5 star. At least one. If you want to give multiple, that's up to you. And if you're giving it less than 5 stars, I would like to know one specific thing I need to improve. Okay, I don't mind taking feedback. I've taken plenty of feedback. That's why this podcast generally gets better. Okay, but if you're gonna say something like Elias is the next coming of Jesus Christ, or Elias is the epitome of stupidity, I'm gonna reject that. I don't empty compliments. Yeah, even empty compliments I reject. 'Cause that doesn't help me. Empty insults and compliments, it doesn't help me. So give some feedback if you want, change on that. That's more democratic than unfortunately the current system that we got. Because something will happen there, okay? And we need to put our better people into representing us. And this should be more important than the Olympics, than the American Idols, and all of that. I'm not telling you to abolish them, but we need to get our priorities straight because so far we got people who are corrupt, people who are not there mentally, okay, and they're just representing the party. You got the party blessing, not the people's blessing. You got to work for the people's blessing, and then I respect that more. I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, or Independent. Just get the people's support, approval, and all of that. That's what we got to work towards. So I want to support this, okay? And I think you should do that too because if you're tired of the way this thing is going, support this. If somehow you love it, if you love it the way it is, then forget about this episode, which I don't recommend because the current system sucks. Period. Except for the swing districts. That's about the only exception, which is not a lot of them. Not a lot of them. But other than that, the swing districts is what it's intended, not a solid blue or solid red. That means they have too much party influence, too much partisan crap in there. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about that. One more time, do you have anything else you want to add before I really wrap this up? Okay.
I'm good. Thanks a lot, Vines. Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. No, I appreciate no, I appreciate your presence and what you bring, what ideas you bring here, and again, support him, support him, support him. Okay, I'm about to shut up with this final statement that I always say in almost every episode. All right, so whenever you listen to this podcast, you have a blessed day, afternoon, or night.